Backyard Green Films is proud to present this episode of Agri-Culture with your host, Elara Bowman. Elara and her husband Rick travel throughout the land in their teardrop trailer that they have nicknamed Maggie, bringing you stories about their travels and the people they meet. They visit farmers, ranchers, and just about anyone who loves putting their hands in the dirt or their feet in stirrups. For the past 3 years, they have been filming a documentary about heritage breed animals entitled The Holstein Dilemma, Heritage Breeds, and the Need for Biodiversity. In those travels, they have gotten to meet some very interesting people. Here's one of those interviews.
Hi, this is Elara. Welcome back to our podcast. I don't know about you, but I'm a person that enjoys a good agriculture-related thing. County fairs, shows, exhibitions, or stock shows, I'm one that avoids the midway and heads to the barn or the garden display. If I'm lucky, I'll get to hit a lecture on some type of farm animal and then go to the barn or garden display. If I'm really lucky, I'll also get to hit up the lecturer after he does his talk and ask him 47 esoteric questions about his topic before we hit the barn. Sometimes I'll take a detour into something dangerously different, like when we went to Farm Aid in Hartford, Connecticut last year. And sometimes my hubby will turn into a fish hatchery when we're on the road and we'll walk around holding hands while looking at fish. It's kind of a date for us. But for me, for the most part, there are a few big events that don't require some form of compost, livestock, manure, growing things, or hay in order for me to feel like I want to stay more than 15 minutes. But there are smaller events that I truly enjoy. Maybe it's because I'm not competing with 400,000 people for the same space. Maybe it's because I can actually ask questions of the people who brought their animals and they have time to answer at a smaller venue. But for whatever reason, it's a different experience and it's often a more intimate one. So the one we'll share with you now is from the Mother Earth News Fair in Albany, Oregon. They have them across the country and we've been going to these events for a few years. We've been in 2 in Oregon and 1 in Kansas. The personalities are a little bit different at each one. Some things are what you might expect of any fair. There are vendors there displaying their products and animals out in the barn area and a petting zoo and food carts outside. I had a spiral zucchini and pesto bowl for lunch, so there's obviously some additional fresh food options available that you might not be able to get on a hardtack road at monster fairs. And I'm kind of grateful for that mercy. But whether they be edible or beauty-oriented, tool-related, service-oriented, or other, there are things to pick up and smell and touch and try out or try on and buy. Today's world of online buying makes it hard to do that kind of thing as much as we used to. And in my opinion, it kind of takes the joy out of some types of shopping. Over the course of the last 2 days here, there were different talks every 2 hours on 9 different stages. You could learn how to make miso and soap, cheese, sourdough, cider, or a straw bale house. Adding a cow to your family, belly biochemistry, introduction to drip irrigation, and make mead like a Viking, or other titles on the list. There was a bookstore and a petting zoo, a goat milking demonstration, and a very cute batch of lambs that were born last week. My 14-year-old niece came with us to this fair, and she's an example of the type of thing I enjoy at the smaller fairs. She hit every aisle at the fair and came back smelling like a lavender field from her new buddies at the essential oil place. She learned to make a gift basket out of a newspaper and filled it with a homemade loofah sponge soap bar. She brought back a minty flowery cup of tea from the herb store to share with us. And all that good smelling stuff was important because she also spent a portion of her time in the petting zoo. She had a blast. For those of you who don't get to go to a more intimate ag event very often, we'd like to leave you with a little feel for what this Mother Earth News Fair was like. So in this podcast, we spoke to some of the vendors and some of the people teaching the classes. We'll leave you with that little feel of what it was like, except for the taste of pesto zucchini and the smell of lavender and petting zoo. You'll have to go to the next fair for that.
We're at the Mother Earth News Fair here, 2019, Albany, Oregon. So introduce yourself if you would, and tell me what you're doing here.
My name is Janice Cox, and I'm a natural health and beauty writer and author of cookbooks on making your own body care products. So I'm presenting here at the fair I have a couple of different talks presenting, my recipes and ideas for making body care products. And we're doing a workshop too. Yeah. So.
And I was very excited because I actually have one of your books. I told you, I know this is from last year's fair. I bought that at the bookstore. So this is Natural Beauty at Home. And this is your previous one. How many books do you have?
This is my original book that I came, and since then I had 3 other cookbooks with all more recipes, and then Mother Earth News magazine, Ogden Publications, helped me revise 2 of the books, and we just brought them back out at the fair.
Okay.
So Natural Beauty from the Garden, which is all plant-inspired books, and then Natural Beauty for All Seasons, which is seasonal, and then also gift-giving. And we're doing a workshop making things out of that book, and it's new at the fair. That one just came out at this fair, so you're the first to see it.
You gave me a copy. That was so nice. Okay, I'll ask you to sign it too. And I have to say, you're signing all of your books here, correct?
Yes, I am. I'm signing books.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk just a second. Natural Beauty at Home, the book that I have. I'm just going to give an example. So, Marie Antoinette mask. Now, this seems like a simple thing, but it really works. 1 tablespoon cognac, 1 egg, and a quarter cup of non-fat dry milk powder, and a little bit of lemon. How did you come up with that?
Well, people ask, how do I get my recipes? A variety of places. History books, like Marie Antoinette really did use eggs on her face, just like Mary Queen of Scots would bathe in wine and then let the villagers drink the wine.
That's really interesting.
If you read history books, there's a lot of different recipes there. I also get recipes from my family. My grandmother used to use witch hazel, or my mother set her hair with beer. I also will look at what's popular out in the market and kind of reverse engineer products.
Okay.
And then just be inspired by, like in the garden book, plants that I love and enjoy, like lavender, mint, rosemary, parsley, doing products with, that. So if chances are, if there's something you're already using and you want to learn how to make it, I have a recipe.
Okay, so then I was going to ask you, say I've got something like this lip gloss, coconut almond lip gloss or flavored coconut lip gloss. Is it something that you you can constantly tweak? Because I know that some lip glosses are too waxy and some are not. So you kind of go in and
that's what I like about it. You're not only going to save a lot of money, but it's just you're in control. You're making a product for your body. Nobody knows you better than you. So you can create, it's a little bit like muffins. Once you get down the basic recipe of a cream, a lotion, a lip balm, then it's just, nuts or chocolate chips, coconut oil or jojoba oil. You can just kind of tailor it to where you're at. And that's also the idea behind the seasonal thing. Because maybe in the winter we all need a lot more oil, even oily skin people, where in the summer you might want more water-based products.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I'm going to grab that other book in 1 second, but I'm going to ask you one other quick question on this previous one. So you also do things like perfumes, so dry perfumes. I mean, that's a really interesting concept.
Pretty much anything that you can buy commercially, because remember, there's no such thing as a new idea, it's improved upon ideas. And people for many, many years couldn't just run down to the Bath & Body boutique. I mean, they had to create their own products. So anything that now is out commercially, you can probably make at home. And it also makes you a better consumer. If you know what goes into your products or how to make it, when you're shopping in the store, or you're going to choose those, which is another thing, will also make companies produce products. You see now, L'Oreal, one of the largest cosmetic firms in the world, has a line out that is all sustainable packaging, and when you're done using it, you open it up and there's a packet of seeds inside. And then all the ingredients on the label you can understand, they're not hidden in some chemical name or Latin name. So I mean, I really see a trend with us being smarter consumers forcing what's being sold.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, so this is the one book, and I'm going to ask you about the other book. Okay, so this is your new one.
Yes.
Natural Beauty for All Seasons. Yes. And I have not had a chance to read this one yet.
I know. I just gave it to you this morning.
I know, but I'm kind of excited about it. So the one thing that I noticed in here, though, that I want to ask you about right away is you talk about seasonal ingredients, like winter beauty is baking soda, beans, citrus fruits, and then spring beauty ingredients, carrots, essential oils, flowers.
My mission has always been, I want things easy for people. So I always put ingredients that they maybe already have in their home, or they can easily get at the drugstore or the grocery store. I don't want anybody to have to order something special.
Yes.
And the seasonal approach is the same thing. If you want to use fresh ingredients, this is what you're going to be in the winter. There is pine needles, or in the fall there's apples and nuts, and in the summer we have the fruits and vegetables. So let's take advantage of what is out there to treat our skin.
Yeah, and I have to say, being from San Diego, we don't get a whole lot of seasons, so in this
Well,
way
you
I
guys
feel
can use
like
things year round.
Well,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's kind of, see, I get the taste of seasons in them, and so
Right.
it's wonderful. Now, I just had to ask you about this one recipe, aromatherapy for jet lag. This sounds wonderful to me. How'd you come up with that?
Well, this actually came out of a product that I read in an airline magazine, and when I looked at it, it was really lavender oil and peppermint oil. And what the theory behind it is when you're traveling and you get to a time zone, if you need to kind of relax and go to bed, use the lavender oil.
Yep.
If you need to kind of pep up and stay awake and go to a meeting, use the peppermint oil. So you can take this, just two little simple bottles, either a roll-on or in product form as you travel, and then add it to your bath water.
Yep.
Maybe massage some on your pulse points,
Yes.
sprinkle it on your sheets, and it really does help with the jet lag.
And if you're staying in hotels, which we do a bit
yes,
of,
lavender
it
oil.
helps you to feel a little less like you're in a hotel.
Well, even some hotels, I just stayed, I don't know, someplace, a hotel, and by the bed they had a lavender spray.
Yes.
So I just feel like everybody now is they say this whole industry is about to double in the next 8 years. I mean, it's always been popular, but now it's just off the charts, beauty, wellness, natural, organic, it's just...
It's the thing, so make your own. That's
I think
right.
it's always been the thing, but now people are calling it the thing.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to say, here in Albany,
Yes.
you've been scheduled for a couple things. This morning you were doing garden herbs and flowers for
Yes,
health
that
and
was
beauty.
yes.
Okay, we missed that one. But at 5 o'clock you're doing how to grow and use lavender for health and beauty.
That's a whole hour talk focused only on lavender. So lavender is, there's I think they say there's over 100 uses for lavender. So I really go into the concepts of growing lavender, using it in the home, using it for bath and body, culinary lavender, and also crafting with lavender. So yeah, if you are a lavender fan, this is like an hour of lavender.
Okay, that is me.
Even chickens like lavender.
Yes.
That's a little sneak
Well,
peek.
and probably good for the bugs too, I'm assuming.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so then tomorrow, Sunday, at 10 o'clock, you're doing the extended garden gift basket. Tell me about that.
What we're going to do is we're going to use take newspaper and weave them into baskets that you can use for gift giving, or you can use it, for your own. And then we're going to make hands-on, maybe about 6 different body care products. We're going to make a soap, a hairspray, a lip balm, a bath soak, and I think a foot soak also. So,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm
and
very
then we'll
excited.
fill them in our baskets.
That's kind of exciting, and it's a nice little craft project too that you can do at home.
Yes,
It doesn't
it's-
exactly feel like craft.
Yeah, it's something you can do on your own, or you can also be social with it, and do it with your family or friends. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been
yes.
delightful.
Yeah, let's all
Wonderful.
get together.
Okay, all
Yeah.
3 of us.
My name is Jim Ryland. I'm a contractor in Southern Oregon, and I build straw bale structures. And I'm with the California Straw Building Association, and we're here today at the Mother Earth News Fair in Albany, Oregon, building a straw bale structure behind me here that has 3 different straw bale wall assemblies and a light straw clay assembly. And then over here we have a display that shows some of the images from our recently published book, which is titled, I should remember the title of this, which is titled Straw Bale Building Details, an Illustrated Guide for Design and Construction. And this is important for us to be here because there's a lot of people interested in building with more natural materials. Straw is an annually renewable agricultural byproduct that is often just left in the field or used for animal bedding or sometimes erosion control. And it's something that is very insulative when put into a bale, stacked into a wall and plastered on both sides. And the reason we have these 3 different wall assemblies here, bales laid flat, bales on edge, different types of framing systems, is to show that when you're using these for insulation, as an infill to a post and beam structure, you can achieve really amazing R values, resistance to thermal movement through a wall assembly. You've got anywhere from R21 with a light straw clay assembly to R26, 27 with a 15 or 16-inch wall, all the way up to R37 with a 23-inch thick wall, all depending on how you take the bale and orient it in the wall itself.
Any issues with mold, rodents, anything like that?
So there are more pluses to building with straw. It sequesters carbon, so if you're concerned about climate change, it'll pull, because growing plants photosynthesize and they pull CO2 out of the atmosphere, release the oxygen so we can breathe it, thank you very much. They store that carbon, and if you put that carbon in a place where it won't be rebonded with oxygen like in a wall, and it stays there for hundreds of years, then you've kept that carbon from re-entering the atmosphere. It's also extremely low embodied energy. It's the lowest embodied energy building material of any building material. The next one up is cellulose, newsprint. That's already become paper, then recycled into little bits that go into your attic or your walls. And the next one up from there is wood. So it's very low embodied energy, meaning not a lot of energy went into making it, which is good, because if you have a lot of energy in the building in the first place, you're taking a step backwards before you go forward with an energy efficient building. The thermal envelope and the resistance to air movement of a plastered wall assembly means that the building is really easy to heat and cool. It's very energy efficient. It has to be done well and done right, and that's what the book goes into, is how to do it well and do it right. A couple of downsides. Mott Smeierman, one of the early pioneers of the straw building revival from the 1980s, first buildings were built in the 1880s, but when Mott started taking this up, he realized you could have a wall of any shape or size you wanted. You just couldn't have skinny walls, because the bales are going to be either 15 or 16 or 18 or 23 inches thick. That's just the way it is. That's a downside. You have to keep the walls dry. If moisture gets in the walls, just like any cellulose material, and it gets high enough, if it exceeds 20, 21, 22%, microbes that are in the straw, they're everywhere, they become active. And they go, oh, look, it's wet, it's moist, it's warm, let's eat. And then your straw bale walls can turn into compost. But it only happens when moisture gets in the walls. So if the walls are vapor permeable and you have really good roof overhangs, so that walls don't get wet in the first place, then you're going to have a wall that's going to last for many, many decades, if not hundreds of years.
Okay, hi.
Hi, so introduce yourself, please.
Sure, I'm Charlene Couch. I work with the Livestock Conservancy. I am the program manager for the Livestock Conservancy.
Okay, and you have quite a list of letters after your name. You tell me what your experience is.
Well, my background is in animal genetics, breeding, behavior. I did do a PhD in zoology and genetics, and I spent a lot of time working in the university environment before I came to the Livestock Conservancy.
You guys had this huge equine summit that you were prepping for madly, and the purpose of this is?
The purpose of it is to bring together members of all the breed associations. So all of the rare breeds have their own associations, and each one sent a member to the Equine Summit.
Oh my gosh, how do you coordinate that?
Oh, it was really challenging. It was really challenging, and to limit the number of attendees was hard because everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to say their piece.
Why would you have to limit that?
Well, we had to limit it because it was a working meeting. Yeah. We needed to sit down in small groups and really produce a product by the end. Yeah. So we did limit it to one person per breed association, which still ended up being about 80 people. So it was plenty big.
Okay, how can you have 80? How many breeds do you have?
We have about, let's see, I'd have to count them. We have I think 18 or 20 breeds of horses. You could double check me on that, but then breed associations sometimes split into 2 pieces and 3 pieces,
or 12 or 562, right?
There's not just one breed association for many breeds.
Well, that's one thing that we learned when we went to the Livestock Conservancy Conference a ways back, that the issues in breed organizations, because you're all trying to do a good thing, save a breed or help members of the breed, and sometimes people all have a different idea of what the best way to do.
That's exactly right.
Right. So, and it's not that one is bad, one is good. It's just that different ideas, just like different people, right?
That's right.
Okay, so
and folks are very, very passionate about these breeds.
Yes.
And that passion and that ownership, sometimes folks can butt heads.
Yeah. So what does one say to those people? You say, look, let's all get together. Is it is it Russia? Is it the summit, or is it the salt talks, or what? Or is it something where everybody says, yes, we understand? There's a lot of emotion there.
There's a lot of emotion. Yeah. We try to not take sides. That's really hard sometimes. We try and get folks to talk to each other, to bring them together, and that's what the Equine Summit was all about. It was bringing those folks into the same room to understand that we are all facing the same challenges, and we're all facing the same issues with our breeds and with loss of diversity.
It doesn't really matter what animal, does it? I mean, some have a little bit. You might have a different issue with draft horses than you do with, you know, an Irish sport horse or something like the draft that's used for sport. But really, when it comes down to it, the economic viability is going to be the same issue for everybody. Transport,
that's exactly right.
AI, breed selection, it's all kind of the same process.
Breeders aging out of the work, bringing in new members.
Yeah, and that's something with farms that is a real problem. The average farmer's 58, 59 anyway. It seems to be a generational transfer right now anyway, right?
That seems to be the case.
Okay.
And it's the same across the board for all species, all breeds. We did a study of, well, it was a survey of the age of American milking Devon cattle farmers. It is really skewed toward individuals over 50. And that's the case for horses and for pigs and for all these breeds.
Yeah, and so it's not just a farmer, it's a knowledge transfer because
that's right.
The little that we've done, I don't consider myself a completely unknowledgeable person about farming, and yet we've been running around for 3 years and I still feel like I don't know anything. I can't even imagine if you have to raise these animals on a constant basis, how you get up to speed on something if you start from scratch, you know.
Well, hopefully we can help them with that.
Yes.
That's the idea behind the Livestock Conservancy, that we're a clearinghouse for information to help people find breeds and figure out how to raise them in the most economically feasible way, to help folks learn how to market those breeds.
So you guys don't really actually do any raising of animals yourself?
We don't. We don't have animals except the occasional chick because we provide chicks for Chicks in the Classroom in North Carolina. We don't raise animals, but we have a network of farmers and breeders that we work with, and all those individuals are in our database. And so we're able to present a directory of breeders to potential farmers, and they can look up who has Gloucestershire Old Spots pigs and where are they and could I buy stock from them.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of one of the interesting parts to it. I can say that's a longhorn over there, but it might be 80% longhorn that looks like a longhorn, but genetically it's really 20%, I don't know, pick one, Angus or something like that. You never know until you tested it, right?
That's true.
So you need a database.
We need a database, and we need folks to register their animals.
One of the things we talked about with the horse breeder that came through, she says nobody really meets the other horse breeder anymore. You just order the germplasm from somewhere, and then they ship it to you. You do AI, and you have a horse. But behavior is a huge part of a characteristic that you want to carry through, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So how will you know that if you don't actually personally meet the person and the horse? And
that's right.
Yeah.
Or at least have an association to go to that can recommend good breeders who are breeding for the traits that you're interested in.
So it's reputation too.
Yeah,
that's a great thing. So this is not just horses.
It's not just horses.
What else do you do? Cattle?
We work with cattle, sheep, pigs, ducks, chickens, geese, turkeys.
And rabbits, I found. We haven't talked to any rabbit people.
And donkeys.
And donkeys too. Now we have talked to donkey people. We did go to Bishop Mule Day, so that was really exciting. But rabbits are a huge thing for people that want a little backyard animal, right?
That's right. It can be a really productive source of protein for people in sustainable farming situations, in small farms, even in some neighborhoods. If you're allowed to keep small livestock, you can grow meat in your backyard, and it's really healthful, good for you meat, and it's pretty rapid turnover. Rabbits breed like rabbits.
Yeah,
and
it's
they make
just
lots of meat.
It's just a different thing though, because the one thing I've noticed is that we have this conception of beef, chicken. That's kind of it. If we feel like edging into the margin, we head to sheep, and we have mutton.
Right.
But goats and rabbits and other animals like this are kind of coming into the mainstream now.
They are beginning to come into the mainstream.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are lots of ethnic populations too that traditionally have used these breeds and are able to capitalize on them becoming more popular.
Yes, so economic viability is one thing that we talked about with a lot of farmers.
Yes.
With this diverse demographic, you can have something like a goat that you couldn't really make money on before, but now you can make a living on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So San Diego, we're cruising down the road the other day, Friars Road, middle of the city, goats along the side of the road because they're eating
doing
the
landscaping.
Weeds. Yeah, it's the rent-a-goat
That's
people.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So they use, I want to say boar goats.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, there's no workers' comp, none of that for them. They have a secondary purpose because when you get done eating the brush, that's their purpose.
That's right.
We're going to clear for fire control. They eat the goat.
That's right.
Which is, feed them for free, and then you get the meat from it. So there's some of these things that are not necessarily single purpose.
That's right. Most of these animals can be used for multiple purposes. Meat, milk is a big product. Cattle can be used as oxen.
Yeah. The milking Devons are great for that.
The milking Devons are great.
Yeah, we talked to John Hall in Maple Breeze Farm, and he said if you can keep up with a milking Devon plowing, you are in good shape. He says you're an athlete.
They walk quickly, so they can plow more land in a day than the average cow.
Yeah, he's a great little cow. So now, okay, so that segues nicely. You're going to talk about adding a cow to your family here at Mother Earth News at the fair in Albany.
That's right.
Tell me about that talk that you're going to do.
So the talk about adding a cow to your family farm is how to bring a cow onto your small farm to provide a sustainable source of food for your family, of milk, of potentially meat or oxen power. And I discuss all of the infrastructure needs that you need to have in place before you bring the cow onto your farm.
That sounds grandiose, infrastructure, but
infrastructure. Think about it. You've got to have fencing. You've got to have shelter. You've got to have a source of water. You have to have shade. You have to know what you're going to feed the animals. You have to find a veterinarian. There's so many things to think about that you really should do your research before you jump into a big animal like a cow.
So with chickens alone, I know my fencing requirements are they're a bit much. So with a cow you're also going to talk about pigs here too.
That's right.
There's all kinds of different requirements that you might need. It's not just a fence is a fence, right?
A fence is not a fence.
Okay. We're going to talk to Joe Putnam here.
Perfect.
From Year One.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to talk to him about fencing because we had the St. Croix sheep people. We were on the farm, and boy, did they have to build fences against coyotes and things too.
Right.
So when you talk about adding a cow or the pigs, do you kind of talk to people about what kind of animals they might have to deal with and to keep their animals safe?
We talk about predation. We talk about how to keep their animals in and other animals out. Typically, electrical fences will do that for you, and Joe will be talking about that.
Okay,
later.
Fantastic. So you mentioned earlier, you talked about the cow and the milk and having a calf.
Yes.
Yes. So now that's a thing most people don't really think about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
People often don't think about the fact that, like all other mammals, a cow needs to produce a baby in order to begin to lactate and to produce milk for us. The milking can go on for a very long time. You can share milk with the calf, and many of our heritage breeds produce 10 to 15,000 pounds of milk in a year.
Pounds. Now,
Pounds.
That was one thing I've learned in the last couple of years. Milk is measured in pounds. It's not gallons.
That's
specifically.
right.
It used to be more gallon issue, right?
Right.
But
so
now
divide
with butterfat
10,000 by 8, and you've got a lot of gallons
there.
there.
But with butterfat becoming an issue in dairy, farmers are paid for butterfat content because we're using more, cream cheese and cottage cheese and yogurt, and it's not just straight milk anymore. So some of these breeds, these heritage breeds, also have a higher butterfat content, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Some of these heritage breeds are very high in their milk and their meat in omega-3 and 6 fatty acids, and vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins that are really important to our health. The Guernsey cow produces this very high, beautiful yellow, very high butterfat
I've heard
yellow
of that.
milk.
Yeah.
It's golden in color, and it's terrific for making ice cream because of all the suspended fat particles.
I have an ice cream cow.
An ice cream cow. That's right.
That's wonderful. Why not? Seriously, and if it's an animal that you can use for multi-purpose, that's fantastic.
Why not make the most you can of an animal that you're taking care of?
Yeah, I agree.
Put her in your garden to clean up last year's windfall apples, or
now that's a really also an interesting direction, because one of the things we talked about as people came by the booth was they said, well, I come in Southern Oregon and it's hot here and it's dry, so I'm looking for a pig, or I'm looking for a cow or a goat or sheep that does X, Y, and Z that can handle cold winters. You guys do that too, right? It's sort of like a little match puzzle. You tell them what you want and you'll hit something that might come pretty close in terms of a breed that will come close to their requirements, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
For a lot of the breeds, we have what's called sort of a there's a chicken spreadsheet that is called
Chicken spreadsheet. You warm my heart, my accounting heart.
I know. It's called Pick a Chick, and it has all the characteristics of each breed, whether they're hot or cold tolerant. Do they make brown eggs or white eggs? How many eggs do they lay in a year? Are they for beginners or for more experienced chicken keepers? And we have those for each species. So there's a pick a cattle or pick a cow, I guess, pick a duck sheets.
So if I have one that says I have to make my husband happy and I live in a very teeny lot in the middle of San Diego, California, you're going to find a sheep that my husband will let me take home?
I think so. I think we can do it.
That's one of the boxes on there? Okay, so now also the other thing we wanted to ask you about, you're going to talk about chicken Q&A, you and Jeanette from the Livestock Conservancy, correct?
That's right. We try to work with other farmers who are happen to be at the Mother Earth News Fair. We'll have a panel of folks up front to answer chicken-related questions or poultry-related questions in general. We encourage people to bring their lunch and to sit and hang out with us and to ask questions. And we try and make it an interactive workshop, essentially, of, if I don't know the answer to your question, maybe somebody in the audience does. And so we all share information about poultry.
Now, I can tell you, we have 8 chickens at home, and I'm just one of those that, when our chickens live their natural life out, they go and they have a nice little burial in the front yard. They're
Right.
not anything other than pets. But we have issues in Southern California, even as hobby farmers, backyard pet people, that I would love to find answers to. So for instance, we had a mite issue that started 5 years ago. We didn't have mites or 3 years ago. We didn't have any mites prior to that. Talked to Julie Gauthier, who also works in helping
she's
the
on the
Livestock
board of the
Conservancy.
Livestock Conservancy.
Yeah, and she said, I said, can you help me? What do I do? First thing she said was burn the coop.
That's right.
Yeah, because it's a real issue. But you talk to people in a forum like that Chicken Q&A where they have some suggestions that could be really helpful. They might not be able to solve it, but they oftentimes can help get closer to an answer.
That's exactly right.
Some problems can't really be solved. Vernon Newcastle is going through Southern California disease.
I know.
So maybe maybe you have some suggestions from other chicken person or a farmer as to how to sort of keep the risk down,
That's
cleanliness
right.
or coop
Biosecurity.
yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
So what's your most common question in chicken Q&A?
We frequently get questions about how to stop a hen from being broody or how to make my hen broody.
You get a coaching and you won't have a choice.
That's right.
Yeah,
You'll have
okay.
broody.
Did I get the breed right?
Yes.
Get a coaching? Okay. That's the little one that runs around and wants to get back inside the coop to sit in the nest.
All the time.
24
That's
hours a day.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
good.
wonderful. I am so glad. Now, you're going to talk this afternoon at 2 o'clock here in Albany?
I'm talking this afternoon about homegrown pork and
Fantastic.
bringing pigs onto your farm. We'll also, is it appropriate to say, we'll also be at the Seven Springs,
Very
Pennsylvania
appropriate
Men Fair, and we'll be talking about cattle and pigs, maybe horses, because draft power is valuable on a small farm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's breeds that do different things. So that's,
Exactly.
you might have different requirements and different breeds are going to fit. Something will fit.
Something will fit.
Fantastic. Yep.
right.
Now I've noticed, matter of fact, that's how we found this topic for the documentary that we're working on right now for the Holstein Dilemma. Is we came to the Mother Earth News Fair 2 or 3 years ago now, and we found your booth. And that's how we got started on the
That's
whole
so
thing.
neat.
We said, this is a really neat concept.
Right.
Livestock Conservancy comes to pretty much all the Mother Earth News Fairs, don't you?
1 or 2 of us attend every Mother Earth News Fair, and there are 6 every year. So we're all over the country. We're talking to farmers, and it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
It really is.
Well, thank you for sitting down with us.
Yeah,
This
you're very
has been
welcome.
great.
Thank you.
Airplanes notwithstanding.
I know, airplanes not mistake.
Thank you. Okay, so we are here at the Mother Earth News Fair in Albany, Oregon, 2019 version. And your Premier One has been here for a couple of years. Would you introduce yourself
Yes.
and tell us about yourself a little bit?
Hi folks, I'm Joe with Premier One Supplies. We're a small farm and electric fence supply firm out of Washington, Iowa. And we go to all the Mother Earth fairs and show off our portable electric fences that folks like to use for either keeping a couple birds in their backyard or rotationally grazing their flocks throughout their pastures. So we cover everything from electric fence to poultry supplies, lamb and kid milk replacer, and things along those lines.
Ear tags, we've heard
We
from
do
the
ear
Shasta
tags as
people.
well. Yes, we
Yes.
do custom imprinting of ear tags, and we also handle the scrapey tags as well.
So tell us, you ship things across the country? How do you do your services?
Yes, so we are direct to consumer. So anything you order from Premier will come from our facility in Iowa. Free shipping on orders over $100 for those that are wondering. And so that covers pretty much any electric fence order, actually. They're going to be around that range. A typical roll of an electric fence is in the 100 to 164 foot range. A fence energizer to power that is, to start, we like to start with a half joule energizer. So we measure our fences in joules of output, or our energizers in joules of output.
You're already way over my head with that.
I know.
But actually that brings me to a good thing. A couple hours ago, you gave a talk here yesterday.
Yesterday.
The time has rolled by here for me
It's
today.
going quickly.
So you gave a talk on electric fencing, and you kind of introduced to everybody the differences in fencing, because when you started talking joules, I
Yep.
kind of glossed over a little bit. But it basically, how do I put up a fence? I have a
Yep.
chicken, I have a goat, I have a duck. Is that kind of the thing that you do here?
Yeah, so the topic of the talk was the many uses of electric fence. So we covered how to fence for different species, how an electric fence works. So when I say terms like volts and amps and joules, that was covered in the talk. Energizer and conductor was covered as well. And then we went over some of the various uses folks use electric fence, primarily rotational grazing, or a rapid movement throughout your pasture, so you graze for a few days and move it to the next spot, and so on and so forth. And portable electric fence lends itself well to that purpose, because you can take the fence down in 5 to 10 minutes and have it up at a new spot.
Yes, okay. So actually I live in the 8th largest, what are we in, Rick? The 8th largest city in the country, San Diego.
Okay. All right.
I have 8 chickens in my backyard, so we have just a little backyard flock, but they do get out and run around a little bit. But the one thing I've said is I would like to have them be able to graze in the front, because we got a lot of rain this year. Can you actually do that? Set up a little fence in a couple minutes, or no? How does that work?
Yeah, we can. I don't have the right roll for that here.
Yes.
I have sample lengths.
Yes.
Since I ship all my product to
Yes.
this event. But yeah, in about 5 to 10 minutes, I could have a 100-foot roll set up and connected.
Well, see,
I'm
now
well
that's a joy
practiced
for me
at
to
it.
hear, because then I could let my chickens run at a different space than their stationary fencing is. Plop, plop, plop,
Yep.
down they go, and they can take all my weeds and my bugs out of my front
Exactly.
yard. You just had a sale right there, whether or not you're
Right. All right, I'll
Okay.
pull up my program. in a
Pull up
minute.
your program. Okay, so we will go out and talk about fencing here in a minute, but this is great because at this stand here at the Mother Earth News Fair, you can have consumers be able to look at the different kinds of fencing and talk to you. And do you kind of know, Ann, a little bit about the different animals and what they might need?
Yep, I do. I grew up on a small 40-acre farm in Iowa, so we raise poultry, goats, sheep, swine, cattle, and a couple horses every now and then as well.
That's why you're the fence guy,
Yep.
because there's very different fencing requirements.
Yep, different fencing requirements for all species. So if you're planning a fence for an animal, plan on one for the hardest animal you're planning to contain. So if you have sheep and goats and poultry, plan on fencing for the poultry, and that fence will work back for those other animals as well.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we are here with Joe from Premier One and Bill from Shasta Ranch, St. Croix Sheep. We're going to talk about, you've been talking about fencing this whole time. So talk about fences that you would recommend for this kind of animal.
All right, for the St. Croix, I'd probably lean towards what's called Electro Net. That's a 935/12 fence. So that's
935/12, really?
So that's a 35-inch tall fence, and a typical roll is about 164 feet, retails about $120 or so in that range. And that would give you roughly a 40 by 40 paddock, and if you want to connect multiple rolls together, you can expand from there. That's our standard sheep fence. We use a few miles of it on the farms back at Premier with our ewe flock. And so we raise a similar hair breed, a Katahdin Dorper Romanov cross, a little larger than these, but they're kept in with that 35-inch fence as well. And that's
Right.
working for us too.
Now, I said I was bringing Joe from Premier One over here, and you said, oh, I have their... List me all the things that you said you had.
We use a number of their sheep products, tags, for example. We have 4 different breeding groups, and they all have different colored ear tags.
And you don't know their names, so the number helps.
The number helps greatly. We also get our scrapey tags and the equipment for tagging, hoof trimmers, and a sheep chair, which has made hoof trimming much, much easier.
That's what I was waiting for you to tell me about, the sheep chair. You said there's a sheep umbrella. No, there's not a sheep umbrella.
The sheep chair. With the people we talk to, probably the thing that's most intimidating is hoof trimming. And people worry about that the most. So we tell them about the sheep chair and how we use that to trim hooves. We may trim, anywhere between 10 to 15 sheep in a day. And the chair makes it very easy to do.
You sit in the chair or the sheep sits in the chair?
The sheep sits in the chair.
Okay. I was trying to picture that.
The sheep does indeed. And good quality trimmers really have made a huge difference in how much effort we have to put into trimming and how long it takes. And once they're in the chair, we really take care of everything that we need to for the sheep. We take care of their shots, their hoof trimming, the famacha. We're also looking to see the condition of their inner eyelid to see if they need to be dewormed.
Thank you for explaining what the famacha was.
So that really works well for us.
Fantastic. Now, this is lovely. I'm trying to imagine how you get the sheep in the chair, and I'm wondering if that's what your fancy shepherd's crooks are.
Ideally, when we're working sheep, we have a crook in our hand just for guiding sheep throughout laneways or through the pasture. It just gives you an extra reach with the crook. So I thought I'd bring one over because they're always handy to have. Even just looking at.
Raised with them, right?
Yep. I was raised with sheep.
Well, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
All right.
Speaking of fences.
All right.
Okay, we have 160 acres. We don't have access to power. What type of solar charger would you recommend for the fencing?
Okay. You can do a solar battery unit or just a straight battery unit. With the battery unit, you size your battery to how much output that energizer is going to produce and how often you want to switch out batteries. So if you want to switch them out fairly infrequently, go with a larger battery. If you're going to be planning on switching batteries every couple of days, you can go with a smaller unit or smaller battery. As far as solar units, size them for the amount of fence you plan to have.
Okay.
So for a half joule energizer, we are typically talking about 300 to 500 feet of sheep and goat fencing.
Okay.
If you have more output, you can increase that length of fence. So for doing that in 160 acres, I believe a 164-foot roll, 4 of those, I believe that gets you about a quarter acre or so.
Okay.
Off the top.
Did you understand all that, or did you have to call the 1-800 line at Premier One too?
I generally will look for the information on the website to figure that out. Because sometimes the energizers are based on length, and sometimes they're based on joules, the amount of power.
He had to translate all that.
So,
Yeah, we tend to go by joules at Premier because that is a set output that doesn't change. That length is going by length varies if you have a single strand cattle fence or a multi-strand poultry fence.
I see.
So length can be very subjective. So we go by joules because that's not going to change fence from fence because that energizer is going to put out that much power no matter what.
Okay.
Yep.
The sheep chair.
Sheep chair.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
So it's an inclined chair with a mesh, and you back the animal up, and there's a crossbar. They hit their legs, they kind of rear up, and then you guide them into the chair, and they're cushioned by that mesh, and they kind of get comfortable in there, ideally, and you trim their hooves.
Okay, so
Like a barber's chair.
Yeah, it beats throwing them, as in putting the U on its bottom.
So let me get this straight. You have to catch the sheep, back the sheep up, stick it like this, put it up on a chair, and that's the easy way to do it?
We couldn't make it any easier.
If you liked our podcast, please subscribe. This is how we keep going. And please tell your friends to join us. Please feel free to post any questions or comments that you might have to our social media sites. Our Twitter feed is at Backyard Green Films, spelled BKYRDGREENFILMS. Our Instagram is at Backyard Green Films, BACKYARDGREENFILMS. Our Facebook is Backyard Green Films. Our YouTube URL is youtube.com/backyardgreenfilms. Backyard Green TV.
We want to thank all the people who spoke with us at the fair this weekend. And if you'd like more information on how to attend a Mother Earth News Fair, please go to their website at www.motherearthnewsfair.com. You have been listening to Agri-Culture with your host, Elara Bowman. Please tune in for more upcoming episodes from our travels. We'd also like to thank our producer, Michelle Council. I'm Rick Bowman, your behind-the-scenes editor. Until next time. This has been a presentation of Backyard Green Films Productions, all rights reserved, copyright 2019.